Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's Zoom. My name's Hannah, if we haven't met before. Just give us a wave if you can hear us. If you've got any comments you'd like to make throughout, just type them up. Oh, hello, people waving back. That's lovely. Thank you, Rosemary. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to go through the Heavenly Daze collection. We're going to do sort of an extended demo from what you've seen previously on the television shows as well. So if you do have any questions as we go along, please feel free to type them into the chat and we will answer them on air if we can. And yeah, basically, it's just an opportunity to have a little bit of a craft with you guys. Before we start, we did, myself and Andrew, who's my producer for this show, go and speak to the lovely Diane to see whether we could get you any little extras. And because I'm going to be using a few different bits and bobs from the Craftmaster collection as well, Diane's very kindly given us an extra little offer as well. So if you head to the website, highlightcrafts.com, and use the code HANNAH30, that's HANNAH 30, that will get you 30% off all of the Craftmaster range, which is fantastic. So things like the Craftmaster 12x12s, things like the Pro Print papers that we'll be using as well, anything with the Craftmaster range, we are giving you 30% off. And it closes, so get it soon because it closes 1st March at midnight. Okay, so should we dive on into a demonstration for Heavenly Daze? Right, so we're going to start with an 8x8 card blank. Onto that, we're going to be building a scene. We're going to be building a world. Now, what I'd really recommend for anyone who's perhaps new to crafting or looking for ways of using inspiration is cut everything out and have everything laid out in front of you first. So as you can see, I've got lots and lots of little bits and bobs. I've got the towering gateway, we've got the beautiful blooms, we've got the leaves, we've got the flowers, lots there, so I can pick and choose as we carry on through this demonstration to utilise all the elements within the Heavenly Daze collection. Onto my 8x8 card blank here, just checking that it's the right way round before I start sticking. We're going to go in with our Craftmaster cardstock. Really lovely, vibrant colour for our mats and layers. Now, if you're ever looking to a mat and layer and thinking, right, what colours can I use? What colours do I want to pop? Find something you love within the reflections and repeat that as a colour within your mats and layers. So for this particular one, I've taken the flowers from Archie and Alice, that beautiful pop of pink around the outside, and then selected that as my mats and layers, as like a colour theme that's going to go around the outside of our card. From here, we're going to stick our first mat and layer down. So we're taking the carrier sheet of our fingerlift tape, and I'm just making a little tab, okay, just folding that excess carrier sheet over the edge of the Craftmaster cardstock. That allows me to then line up the mat and layer like so, getting it nice and even all the way around before holding it in place and removing one of the tabs. That side is now stuck, but it also means the rest of it's going to be all nice and aligned, so I can go around and stick the rest like so. Just a nice easy way of aligning all your mats and layers and things. The next layer is one of our landscape papers. I'm going to be honest, I can't remember which collection this is from, but it is one of those papers I just saw, loved, and thought, you know what, I want to build a world. I want to build a scene around this design. So same thing again, just going around the outside with the fingerlift tape, creating that little tab so we can then just align and layer. When it comes to mats and layers, I mean, I like to cut mine just under 1/4 of an inch smaller than the last layer, and that gives you a really nice fine border. And when you're using quite a bright colour like this pink, it's nice to have that little pop of colour, but then the rest of the paper then softens it back as well. Now, you'll notice I've cut quite a large circle from the middle. That's because to create my scene, to create my focal point, I've used one of the fundamental circle dies and cut away that central scene to mount on further mats and layers, and that just frames that centre. It gives you a way of building in a focal point, almost like creating your own topper for your card design. So for that, again, we're using that same colour combination, so using that scenic paper onto that hot pink from the Craftmaster cardstock. And it's again just a way of building in this repetition of colour, this colour theme, introducing that pink as a little border, like so. And you see a lot of these cards that I make, they do repeat in their styles, But because we're introducing different collections, different dyes, different themes to them, it gives them a different look each time as well. Just smoothing that down. And then mounting that again on white cardstock. So again, the same sort of thing. We're using that white card blank on the 8x8. Repeat that in your topper as well. So it just gives you a really nice sort of uniform look to your design as well. Just aligning that and sticking it down like so, all the way around. Now it'd be lovely to know if anyone's already crafted with their Heavenly Daze collection. If you've shared your makes in the Facebook group as well. It's always nice to see what everyone's been crafting. Okay, so onto this. You want a little bit of definition, what is even the word? Definition between the layers. You know, when you just completely lose the plot. Not close at all. And what we're going to do is that little topper that we've created, we've put on here about a 1mm foam pad. So this is foam tape, you could use foam pads. That's then going to sit over the circle to the center, and it's a great way of using the same piece of background paper but utilizing it in a different way. So normally you'd have to cut sort of several different sheets of this. We're using the same one, just lifting that layer on foam pads and making that center a little bit more prominent. Same thing again with the foam pads, foam tape. Carry a sheet over the side and just aligning that centrally to the card so you get that sort of seamless continuation of the scene behind, but it just gives it a little bit more prominence, just a little bit of point of difference as well. Okay, there we go. So there we've got the foam tape in either side. You'll notice I left the tape on the central one. That doesn't matter. It's just there so it lifts the center of the card. So your two sides are stuck and you've got that support, almost like a little bridge to the center. So you haven't got anything sagging in the center. And that's going to give us our basis into which we can start building this wonderful scene. Now, when it comes to scene building, as I've already said, have lots and lots of die cuts laid out in front of you. But for me, I like to have a little play around first. I like to sort of audition the elements. So we're going to use Towering Gateway. I'm really keen for that to feature somewhere within the design and play around with the perspective. Have things overhanging the edge of the topper you've created because it really draws in interest. You can also extend the Towering Gateway by using the other little elements here, like the little fences. And again, you can see how it starts drawing that off into the background. You can add even more as well. And this is why I say have lots and lots of die cuts ready to go, because it is a really nice way to craft, having everything there at your fingertips, ready just to go in and add. Because if you wanted to, you could extend that little fence panel over the side. I'm going to leave it like that for the moment. And it might be that we want to perhaps introduce some of the florals. So these are the roses that are designed as the archway around the Towering Gateway. I just love how they hug into the design. And again, because you're using that colour theme, instantly colours within the reflections, within the artwork are going to start really being noticeable. So that little pink blush to the roses there is going to be even more noticeable because you've put that border on as well. Okay, so let's go in with the birdhouses as well. Again, just building up the idea. Now, we have had a question about where that particular background is from. I'm going to be honest, I can't remember which paper pack I got it from, but there are lots and lots of different ones on USBs. If you have a little search on the website as well, there's lots of different paper packs and things that you could have a little look at and see. It might be... I guesstimate it might be Bumblebee Barn, but I'm not 100%, so don't quote me on that. But again, just have a little look, because you could swap this out for a more autumnal background and create a whole different world within this design as well. I've added the little birdhouses there, just between the join on the gates. I might not keep it like this, I might change it up. We'll see as the design goes along. But I do feel like it needs more roses. And this is why we say offer up your designs first before you start gluing, because things like adding a little bit of the roses along the top of the fence ties in to this design here, but also then acts as a backdrop to that birdhouse too. Okay, I've just had a word in my ear that the team are having a little look to see exactly which paper this one is. So if we can bring any of those details, we absolutely will do so as well. So there, see how I'll start building in, tucking the different size roses in and out of the archway, making it look like they're looping through down the side and across the top of that fence. It's telling that story for you. What I also love about these papers and the other papers that we have from Highlight Crafts is it extends that story in the background, because you're looking through the gateway into the background. You've got a barn in the distance as well. Again, different ways of using them too. Okay, from here, what do we want to add now? Let's have a look. We could go in with some of the vines. We could have these trailing around the edge of the card to create a little wreath design. You see how, again, you're hugging that shape, but because you've put that topper down, it's giving you that direction. It's giving you that area into which you can start crafting. Maybe we then want to introduce some of the florals on top of these as well. None of these have been cut out or snipped into yet. I'm using them as whole dies, but it might be when I start sticking, we can start snipping into these as well. So that could well be the story that we're creating with here, but I might add to it, I might take away from it. It gives me a point of direction. It gives me an aim to go for. So once I'm happy with the general feel of my central piece, I'm going to start sticking these into place. So I'm just going to remove the little bits. If you've got something like a mobile, a camera, something like that, if you're happy with the design, snap a picture of it, because it's something you can always come back to as well. So to stick the initial elements, I'm going to use the Pinflair bookbinding glue. So nice white adhesive glue, really great, really low water content, so it's not going to buckle the paper or anything like that. But because I'm working on quite fine die cuts, I'm also going to be using my Craftmaster applicators. These are super handy because it's going to allow me to pick up the glue and get into really nice delicate areas without squidging the glue everywhere, which is just so helpful. These, again, part of the Craftmaster range, so if you were watching at the start, you'll know we've got that special code to allow you 30% off until, I think it was the 1st of March. Oh, thank you, Andrew. Andrew, my producer, has just said he's going to pop that in the chat as well for you to refer back to. That's Hannah30 for the code. Okay, and if you are watching after the live, Andrew will be putting that in the description below the video as well. So something to refer back to as well, which is great. So again, just laying on the glue in those areas. I'm not going too mad with the glue. It's just to help that stick, because we're going to be layering over the top as well. So it's going to give it a really nice solid foundation. And remember, we just want areas of that towering gateway just coming over the edge of the circle there. What we're also doing is using the lines on our mat, making sure the card is aligned evenly on the mat, which means when I come to stick, things that are upright and need to be sort of central and things are going to stick evenly as well. They're not going to look out of place. I'm going to stick on the little fence panels too. These could be gateways. You could have snipped into the gate to have it opening as well if you want a little bit more movement to the front of your card, for example. Lots and lots of ways of using these designs. So again, just lining up. And what we're doing here is following that line of the bottom of the gate, trailing that across into the fence panel, so everything is then aligned. And it just looks neat. It just sort of makes sense to the eye when you're viewing it as well. Same thing again with the second fence panel, just a little dab of glue, top and bottom, just to stick that in place. And again, continuing that line and being quite happy if that then trails over the edge of the card as well, like so. When it comes to things like the flowers, just holding that, because we're working on a shiny paper, you just need to get a little bit extra long hold just so it grabs and sticks in place. When it comes to things like the flowers, rather than just going on and sticking them flat, because it will end up looking flat, you want to add a little bit of shape to things like this. Look to areas where the flowers would be more raised. Look to areas where there's darker shadow. Those would be in the background of the design. And you can use things, I mean, you can use ball tools if you prefer. I always use a pokey tool just because I have it to hand. And we're just using a round movement just to shape that die cut out. And it's going to give it a more realistic feel when we come to add it to the front of our card. So just balling that out. You see how the paper's curving over, curving in. And then just adjusting that like so. There. You see how you're then shaping that as well. Now to keep that shape, we can introduce some pin flare glue gel. Again, available on the Highlight Crafts website. I like to use mine in a syringe. I feel like I get a little bit more control over it. And again, we're just putting the glue gel into those areas where we want to keep the height and dimension. It takes about 24 hours to dry, so don't sort of put it on and then put it straight in the post or anything like that. You want to give it time to dry. But you don't have to squidge it down. It will maintain its height that you've given it, like so. And you see how now you've got that sort of undulation of the flowers there. Giving that roundness, giving that softness to the look just makes everything feel a little bit more realistic. Same with anything we now put down on the page. You just want to give it a little bit of a rounding before we then go and add it to the design. And this is what's fun. This is where you're transforming it from a flat sort of image into something a little bit more realistic. There, that's trailing down there. That looks quite sweet. Like so. And play about with this. You know, once you get these dies home, they're yours to have a little play with. They're yours to work out how you want to create, how you want to finish your card designs as well. If you do prefer using foam pads rather than three-dimensional glue gel, that's absolutely what you can do. Just the same thing, shape everything and add a foam pad instead of the glue as well. There we go. When we get to the finer bits, I am tending to use my tweezers to place, just so I don't get glue absolutely everywhere, like I have a tendency to do. And then layering that birdhouse over the top, hiding that join between the fence panel, giving it a more of a seamless finish to the design. So this one I'm going to lay down flat, but I am going to lift it on the glue gel because it's got to sit over the roses on the fence panel there. Just nestling that down into place. And again, keeping that grounding, keeping that same level of where it would sit in relative to the fence behind. And this one, we're going to use our pokey tool in a slightly different way, putting it to the centre of the birdhouse there and then lifting the die cutter round. So you get that sort of point to the centre and that just shapes it out like it would be in real life, okay? Same thing again, a little bit of glue gel all the way down, and then we can layer that over the previous one as well. So when I stick, I tend to try and get one piece lined up before offering the rest up and gently holding it into place, just encouraging it. We're not trying to squidge all the glue out everywhere or anything like that. It's just so it sits over the top quite neatly, like so. So now you're creating that built-in perspective. You've got the birdhouse coming forward, you've got the florals coming forward as well. I might put a little bit of the roses just behind the birdhouse, just to keep that balance and keep that rhythm flowing between the designs there. It's one of those things that we'll be talking quite a lot about on the Academy workshops that we'll be holding here as well, how we create balance in designs. But repeating things, like repeating the colour that we have in the mats and layers in the topper, that Craftmaster pink cardstock, repeating elements gives you a real sense of balance within your card designs too. So here, I'm just sticking that behind that first layer of the birdhouse, using a little bit of white glue there, and then just eking that birdhouse back into an upright position as well. So it's all, you've got time when it comes to the glue gel just to almost change things up, just so everything then sits evenly like so. And really, if you wanted to, you could put a little sentiment to the bottom, you could have put a sentiment to the side, and that could be your finished card design. But we can always take it more, we can take it further, we can bring in some of the leaves. Ah, brilliant, the word has just come in where this cardstock was from. And do you know what? I'd made a good guess on this. I thought it was. It is a Bumblebee Barn, the printed paper is from. Thank you guys for looking that up for me. So here with our vines, I'm just going to remove any of the little die cuts that haven't fallen through. Like so, just using the end of my pokey tool to remove those. And then using the pokey tool again, another way of using the pokey tool, just to run the pokey tool beneath the die cut, your thumb over the top, twist, and then almost like a little flick action on the ends of the leaves to draw them up. It really gives it a more realistic look because, again, sticking something flat The reflections are beautiful, the artwork is great, but you need that extra little bit of dimension, of texture to bring in that very real feeling to the designs as well. Again, just flicking out all those little extra die cuts. Do take the time to clean up your die cuts as well, because it's really nice where you've got all the fine veins and sort of leaves and all the detailings and things like that. It's lovely to really accentuate those by taking the time to remove all the little excess bits on the die cut. So these I'm going to have kind of coming around the edge of the design like so. Let me grab a few more leaves and shaping each one as well. Just twist and turn them in different orientations. You know, in real life leaves would be looking different. Round out those berries as well. You don't necessarily have to keep the berries on if we don't want to. We can snip into them. That's what's great. The snippability on these designs is just fabulous. Just poking away. I don't know about you, but my house is always covered in these little die cut dropout bits. Morph, my cat, likes to walk through them and walk them all around the house. Okay, so that's the general idea for that side of the card, but I do feel I might snip into a few of these berries just to change the look, change the orientation of them as well. So again, just following the cut line details that have already been laid down. I'm going to snip that one away, and I'm going to snip this one away as well. You don't have to do this bit if you would rather leave your die cuts intact in their entirety, but again, it just gives you a different way of using them, a different way and a different look. So I'm going to keep those berries because I will use them. And they're just twisting and turning until I find the orientation I want. Let's also just snip away that little bit. Now we've taken the sort of leaves in, I feel like I just want that bit like so. And do you know what? I might do the same on this one as well. Just so we've got purely the leaves that we're working with, and then I might introduce the berries a little bit later. And the vines like so. There's something so therapeutic about just sitting and snipping into your dies, cuts, snipping into the die cuts you've already made, creating a new kind of balance, a new kind of look to them as well. Yeah, so here you've got more of a fullness because you've got the berries either side, and then it trailers off into just the leaves themselves, which is a nice way of working with them. So again, orientation, sitting at the base, starting at the base, and then working our way around that topper that we've placed, just to give you that general shape. It's also a nice way of tidying up any areas as well, because you can sort of tuck things behind these, and these will act as basically your grounding devices. And when we say grounding devices, it's kind of what makes sense. It gives you that kind of boundary, and it gives you that edge into which you can start building the design. See how we're tucking that behind? See, I can't see the stalk. It looks like it's now just one continuous vine along there. Just poking out some little dropouts there, and then a little bit of glue gel, just following that circle around, lifting and tucking like so. Now within the berry vines, we do also have the smaller ones as well, and I'm going to do that same thing, but I'm going to continue around the circle, top and bottom, just to give you that almost like a feeling of trailing away, so it gets smaller as it moves around the circle. The bottom one I'm going to leave with the berries and vines on, same as this one. Right, and I'm going to use my tweezers. Anything when it comes to finer work, I do prefer just to use my tweezers, just keep my fingers out of the way of the glue. And again, change my tweezers around just so I can get into that little area there. And get rid of that little die cut dropout as well. I'm going to squidge this round just a smidge. That's it. Again, using the pin flare is great for this because I can then go in and just tease these elements into place and have them sitting how I want them to sit. And then same with the top, but this time we are going to snip away the berries on this one. So whenever we're snipping, we're moving the die cut rather than moving the scissors. The scissors stay in the same place, and it just helps you shape wherever you've snipped away. You get a more rounded finish. So again, moving that die cut around and snipping away. shaping everything as we've just done with everything else. And then just offering that up so we know where we're going. Just looking at my tweezers, there they are. And adding the glue in as well. And lifting and tucking. It's almost created like a little crescent of the design there. It might be that when we've finished, we might come in and add a little bit more. You know, that's the beauty of die cutting. Because we've got them there, we can keep adding to them should we wish. I am going to keep my little pile of berries and bits and bobs because I might add those in too. But I do feel like we've got a lot of green going on this side, which is lovely, very luscious if you want it like that. But I do feel let's bring in some of this lovely pink as well. Let's bring in a few of these flowers. Now these, again, I am going to snip into them. And again, just shaping those wherever I remove elements, mainly because I want more of just the flower itself. Now I know within the Archie and Alice set, it does come with, where is it? Let me find one. Just flowers like so single flowers. But I like the idea of using flowers off of the whole as well, because then you get a different flower that you can include within your designs, rather than having the same shape and design of the flower each time. You can mix it up if you're creating a wreath with different elements too. I like the different colour leaves on them. These are a bit darker, which just gives you more option when you're building a wreath design like we're doing here, or a wreath crescent maybe. So we've got a few that we can just go round. That's quite a nice shape. Again, moving the paper around the scissors to round those off. And that's great, you know, the snippability really is endless on these designs. So here we're just using literally the heads of the flowers rather than the flowers in their entirety. But now it looks like these flowers are almost growing on this vine that we've created. So it's a nice way of introducing different elements to create a different look to your card designs. How many have you got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I tend to say work in odd numbers. Mainly because when it comes to the eye likes to find a centre to a piece. So if you're working in odd numbers, the eye can find the centre of the design better. And it's a little bit, you're leading the eye better as well. That's quite nice on the side because you're pointing a flower out and it's out on that side. Let's move you down. Perhaps have you there and you trailing to finish on the top. Let's snip away that bud. I might use that bud in a different orientation. There, that's looking quite sweet. So again, once we're happy with the placement, take your die cuts and shape them. Always look to how the flowers are. So here you can see the petals would be coming in and around the centre of the flower. So we're going to shape that paper the same way as well. Same thing with the leaves, just pointing those out too. A little bit of pin flare on the back. Pokey tool, where did you go? And poke that bit out. And there. Just start adding these into the design. Same thing with this one, the petals would be coming in and around. So just shaping that to the front. It's a really lovely way of taking your dies and then really making them work harder for you, because you've got now, it looks like once you're finished, it will look like this whole wreath is a crescent die in its own right, but you've actually created it step by step, which I think is a lot of fun. And it's a nice way of building something around a central image as well. I mean, this could be a rectangle shape and you do the same thing, but just have the leaves and the flowers following the rectangle rather than the circular design. So yeah, lots and lots of different ways of including that. Letting elements hang over other elements. So you've got the vine here from the leaves before, just coming over that flower, again, makes everything look really natural as well. And having these little flower pops on are really great because it does hide any little gaps you might have in the wreath. It's quite a nice way of working with them. Just rounding it off like so. Again, more pin flare glue gel. Think about the direction the flowers are pointing. This one's trailing round. And then that one, I'm just going to shape that little bit there. And always take, oh, I just cut the cut the whole flower off. Let's take another one, shall we? Always take time to look, to take a step back, have a cup of tea, have a look at your card, because what's going to happen is you might find areas you want to add to, you might find areas where you need to even things off a little bit. It's really worth just taking some time to look through your design like so. So I'm quite happy with that. How many flowers have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I still ended up with 6. Let's go with trailing this round a little bit more, I think. I think that needs a little bit more heavy to the bottom. As soon as you start adding more layers to it, you'll find that actually you want just a little bit extra, a little bit more detailing off to the side there. And that's what's fun, because they are your dies. You can keep coming in, adding more, having a look at it, taking a step back and thinking, right, what else do I need? What more can I add to this? Does it need any more? It's always good to know when to stop with these things as well, isn't it? Okay, let's just ease you out and pop you in, just so we can continue this. I'm not going to have the full, I'm going to tuck it behind. That's better. That's a little bit more shaped now. It's a little bit more balanced. And then pop you back in, just like so. Better. And then let's take a few more flowers. And this is the joy, you know, you can keep coming back to these time and time again, create it a different way, create a different look, create a different finish. But you've really got the added interest of thinking, right, if I snip into this here, or if I add this die here, what would it look like? You can absolutely experiment, have a little go and just see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, perfect, there we go. And again, just easing that around. So again, that could be your card completely finished if you wanted to pop, I don't know, your sentiment up here. Perhaps you want to continue this. Perhaps you're going to print your reflections on something like a copy paper instead, so you get a much lighter image. Perhaps you're going to print it on a vellum. Create then an insert for the inside of your card with the same sort of imagery as what you're using on the front of your card design as well. Let's just see if we've got any more of these, because I feel that needs to come around a little bit more. A few little more elements to add in. And then I might look to add a few berries here and there as well, just to extend parts of that wreath further. And of course, think about the seasons that you're making for. This is quite a nice summer, sort of spring-like card, but with just a little bit of glue and then a little bit of glitter on the edge of the leaves, for example, you'd be crafting this for a nice winter card too. There we go, just extending that again a little bit more. So let's look to our berries. These are great, just little tuck-ins here and there for building the bouquets. I love spending time taking my extra little die cuts, everything that I've perhaps snipped away, and just then introducing those back in different orientations to give you that more sort of full look. To essentially, we're building a wreath, but it is like a bouquet. It's the same sort of thing as what you would be doing with a bouquet here as well. So again, using those tweezers just so we can go in, offer up, and again lift and tuck the designs as well. So here, again, we're talking about repeating patterns. You've got the berries quite heavily involved at the bottom here to give you that more full look to the bottom. As we trail it up, they're becoming more sparse, but you're still continuing that colour theme up the side of the card there as well. A little bit more glue gel. Where are we going to pop you? Let's have you nestled in there. And you see, take the time to sort of tuck those little stalks under and then have the berries coming over the top. And then our final one, just like so. It's kind of making sense of the world around you. You know, these things would be layered up, these things would overlap one another. And now you're creating from the berries here to the larger ones in the base up the side of the card as well. It's just making a little bit more sense of that design. Now from here, what you could do, if you've got, say, the web exclusives, you could have that front and center. So you see how that is now the focal image of your card. Previously, the focal image is your gateway and your crescent, laying your web exclusives for the Heavenly Days over the top could then bring you into a much heavier section and a much fuller look to this side of the card. Similarly, what you would do to add that in, just as you saw with the birdhouse there, is you'd shape this. I don't think I'm going to add it, but it just gives you another option, another way of using if you have got the web exclusives for this collection. Take your pokey tool, line it up with the lines on the roof, and then just bend that around. So you're giving that straight effect to the roof, and then the rest of the birdhouse would naturally follow. Lay that over the top, and then you're getting that finish. What I'd also do, because this is a larger size die, I would then cut away the elements of the flowers, and then do the same thing again. So you've got that roof with the pokey tool down the side like so, rounding that off so you wouldn't have the flowers around it, just to the centre. You're really honing in on that look, and then that would sit to the front of your card as well. So again, another option if you did have the web exclusives there. But just sticking to the Heavenly Days collection itself, let's introduce our little birds. These are Archie and Alice as well. Little, again, play of the story here. Perhaps we're going to have Alice or Archie, I think this one's Alice, sitting to the bottom looking up to the top corner there. Let's try that out. I'm not going to stick, we're just going to have a little look to see how that looks first. Just rounding her out and having her perhaps behind, like so, nestled in. And then Archie, same thing again. Every time you see me lay a die cut down, 9 times out of 10 that's going to be rounded using my pokey tool, and he can sit to the top corner as well. So you get that interaction, that play. What are they having a conversation about? You know, what are they talking about there, which is lovely. For this, let's have a look at what else we get within this collection as well. Again, literally here just to try and give you ideas, try and give you inspiration of what you could be doing at home. Perhaps you want to include the flourishing violets, again, giving you that more anchor point to the bottom there. Same thing again, you can cut into this, layer this up a few times, giving you that dimension to the bottom of your card. Or alternatively, you could use the porcelain flowers as well, similar sort of thing, and have that to the bottom. And actually I think I might do that because I think that draws in the green from the leaves, but also gives you that little bit of pink, and then gives you a nice rich red as well. But I think I might go with that one. But again, you've got options there for you to use different die sets from this collection. Same sort of card, different looks and different finishes. Again, a little bit of pinflair glue gel on the back of our bird, and then just nestling her off to the side. So she's sitting amongst the flowers down there, and her little husband, Birdie, is going to sit to the top, like so. Again, just looping that pinflair glue gel over, just a gentle movement, looping it over to give you that height, and then nestling our little sparrow behind and in to the flowers there as well. Now again, you can give him a little bit more prominence, add 2 die cuts, okay? That just gives you a little bit more height, it gives you a little bit more definition to the design, and also rather than sort of getting lost within the wreath, it gives him a little bit more prominence. So each one added with a little bit of pinflair, and just tucking him behind, and using the edge of my tweezers just to gently ease him into place. Like so. Same thing with the bottom one. You see how now he looks fuller, he looks more involved within the wreath, because you've got a lot of layers going on, because you've got a lot of height going on with the flowers, giving you that sort of double layer to any other of your designs just gives them a little bit more prominence as well. Same thing with our little Alice bird here as well. Looping that pinflair glue gel over. You don't have to do this step if you'd rather not, but it's just a way of giving a little bit more dimension to your card. Just easing her into place, and then just tweaking those leaves where we've disturbed them back over using the end of my tweezers. Now I'm looking at this, I'm quite happy with this. Again, a little sentiment to the edge would be quite nice. Sorry, I'm going to cough, excuse me. But I do feel this top corner, it's nice to leave space in cards, don't get me wrong. It's really nice to have what we call negative space, a space for the card to breathe. But having just a little something there continues the story. So I've taken this butterfly. This is from the Flourishing Violets. I'm just lifting his wing a little bit. And we'll shape him as well. So just taking our poker tool, twisting and turning, like so, shaping one ring up. And then we're going to stick him to our card in that open space. It brings the card back to itself. It doesn't give you quite such a, almost like an uncomfortable space. It gives you a little bit of detailing. But again, using that trick where we're having him flying over the edge of the topper gives you that sense of reality. It looks like that butterfly could flutter away off the side of the card. Rather than trying to confine things right inside the topper, let things expand over the edge, because it just gives you so much more movement to your cards. Now I am going to put that little porcelain in, because I think it's a really lovely little die cut, and it's a great way of adding even more florals. And remember, you don't have to add this one if you don't want to. If you're happy with just the crescent, go for it, okay? But again, just shaping that like so, and then looping that pin flare to the center, just adding that over the top. You know, we're covering up flowers, that doesn't matter. It's all part of the process of layering, because when you view this card from the side, you're going to see different angles, you're going to see different things as well. Just looking to see if I've got any more of those little pots, because I think that would be quite nice to add another one. Yes, I do, look. Remember how we were saying about add a couple of layers rather than just sticking to the one. Add a couple, just to give it a little bit more prominence to the front of your card. And looping that over, a little bit more glue gel like so, and lining that up. Now it could be, look at this and think, right, okay, well that's all very well, Hannah, but that pot is kind of, not quite, but it's almost hanging in midair now, because it's just kind of sat on the front of the card. We can easily rectify that and draw it into the whole design by taking one of those little leaves. Remember what we were talking about, repeating patterns, repeating processes, tying everything together, layering everything up, so it's got a feel of composition and balance. Taking one of the smaller berry vines, snipping away the berries and snipping away that little viney detail as well. Try not to cover my card in all the little fallout from it. Shaping it, again, really important. Keep remembering to shape all your die cuts too. But this we can now have around the edge of the pot. It's got a nice little groove, sort of nick in it, where it can sit around the edge of the pot. So you're not continuing the crescent wreath, if you like, but you're just giving this a little bit of placement. Without, it looks like it's sitting in midair. Adding in a little bit of the leaf around it, gives it a placement, gives it a grounding, but also plays into this idea that we've got going on with the crescent there as well. So again, just these little tips, these little details that we can build card designs with, giving you a little bit more of a real life feel to your card design. Again, just easing that in. Probably should use my tweezers for that. Like so. So now that base of the pot is sitting nestled into those leaves, and everything comes together just like so. And you could go to town, you know, as we said, it doesn't have to be the poppies on the front here. You could add more of the roses around. I mean, get the larger roses. These, for example, could have been your crescent. These could have gone around the edge of the card like so, rather than building up all the vines and things. You swap out the pot of the poppies for the flourishing violets. Perhaps you want to use the roses in their entirety. You know, it really is up to you, but hopefully that's given you a few different ways of using your Heavenly Daze collection to build a really lovely scene around that towering gateway there as well. Just drawing that in. Now I did wonder, has anyone had any questions as we've gone through, working through? Not had any questions yet. Okay, that's no problem. If you do have any questions, don't forget just to type them up on the chat and we can always look at those for you. Let me just lift this up. Hopefully the glue will hold enough to show to the front camera. And I can then tilt it so you can see just how much dimension you're getting. You see how we're saying about popping 2 of the same die cuts on? It just gives you that depth. Makes you feel really full, really lovely full card to design. Now something like this, obviously you'd pop in a little box or something like that. If you were recreating this and you wanted to send something flat through the post, you can absolutely do the same thing, follow the same steps. Rather than adding 2 of everything, leave it at the 1 and don't add as much height and dimension. You can then just keep it flatter if you did want to post that as well. So really lovely options for you on that card design. And that covers our Zoom class for Heavenly Design. I think we've had one question in. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you, guys. So really nice comments coming in, just saying I think we're all just fascinated watching. That's fine. You know, that's what we're here for, giving you a little bit of inspiration there. Question coming, can we download the backgrounds? We can absolutely look into that for you. It's a question we can ask the team after we come off the live. If we do manage to do that after the class today, we can ask for a link to be put on this video in the description as well. So it's something to refer back to. So it's worth checking. We will ask the bosses. We will ask that question for you. Okay, there we go. Basically, and my producer Andrew is saying, basically, if the link is there below the description on YouTube, then yes, we have been able to do that for you. But yeah, we will ask the question after this class. So there we go, little Zoom workshop. No more questions coming in. That's absolutely fine. If you do have any you think of after the fact, by all means type them up on our Facebook group, 2 Red Robins. I'll be able to see it on there and I can always answer there if you are on Facebook too. So all that's left to say is thank you very much for joining me this morning. It was my first Zoom for 2 Red Robins. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I will see you very soon for the next one.
If you want to see more from Highlight Crafts, make sure you subscribe by clicking the button below. Then click the bell icon to receive notifications for all our new content.